For this video, we're going to talk about proportions. And what a proportion is, it's a fraction that equals a fraction. Or another way of saying it, it's a ratio that equals a ratio. And ultimately, a ratio is a fraction. And so when I look at this, I see a fraction that equals a fraction. And so that's considered a proportion. And so we want to check to see if this proportion truly equals each other. So another way of saying that is, do these fractions equal each other? Well, when you first look at them, they don't look like they equal each other. 3/15 looks like a bigger number than 1/5. And so ultimately, I want to check to see if they are equivalent. And what equivalent fractions are fractions that equal each other. And so the way you do that is you can do that personally two ways. Here's the way that's best way to solve a proportion, and it's if you multiply diagonally. And it's if I multiply diagonally, I multiply those numbers right there. 5 times 3. So diagonally 5 and 3. So 5 times 3, if I multiply those numbers, I get 15. And I want to see if it equals the other diagonal. 1 times 15. So 1 and 15. So 1 times 15 is 15. And if these numbers equal each other, then these fractions also equal each other. And if they don't, then they don't equal each other. They're not proportional. But these are proportional because 15 equals 15. Now another way of looking at this is if you took 3/15 and you reduce that fraction, try to find a number that divides into 3 and 15. That's a 3. 3 divides into 3 divides into 3 one time, and 3 divides into 15 5 times. See how 1/5 equals 1/5. So it works out. So these two fractions, yes, they are proportional. Let's take a look at a different twist here. For this particular example, it's a ratio that equals a ratio. So these colons right here represent a ratio. And so let's go ahead and write that. Whenever we are presented this problem with a colon, let's write it as a fraction. So 12, that's what I read first, goes on top, over 32 equals a question mark. We don't know what goes for the numerator here, and the denominator is 8. And so that's a different way of writing the problem, and I would always suggest writing that as a fraction that equals a fraction. And so we want to figure out what goes right here. Now there's a couple different ways, and the best way to do it is to multiply diagonally. So if I multiply diagonally, it's 12 times 8. And I could set that equal to, if I multiply diagonally here, it's 32 times the question mark. And so, well, 12 times 8. Let's go ahead and pull 12 times 8 off to the side and multiply that. 8 times 2 is 16, carry the 1. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So this is 96. And then over here I have 32 times a question mark. Let's talk about that. Now, what I want to do when I see this situation is I want to get the question mark all by itself like this. Well, I want to eliminate the 32, or what we call undo the 32. And the way you get rid of it, or ultimately what we're going to do is move it to the other side of this equal sign here, is you do something called the opposite, or undo the multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is division. They go hand in hand. They go together. So opposite of multiplication is division. So if I divide by 32, that cancels it. It undoes it from this side. So it's gone, just leaving us with the question mark. And now I need to divide 96 by 32. So the way I write that is this way. I want to divide 96 here. So I'll write 96. And I want to divide it by 32. And so when I do that division, I'll have my answer. So 32 divides into 96. Let's try 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. So that subtracts out. That works out. So my answer is 3. Now I could go back and check my work here, and let's go ahead back and check my work. So if I rewrite it, 12 over 32, we're saying that 12 over 32 equals, I got an answer of 3 here, 3 over 8. So I highlighted the 3 because that was our answer. And so the way I check this to see if whether I got it right is to go ahead and reduce 12 over 32 by 4. 4 divides into 12 3 times, and 4 divides into 32 8 times. So 3/8 12 over 32 does equal 3/8. So my answer, though, just for the missing part, was a 3. And so the key is the opposite of multiplication is to divide. So I had to divide by 32. Let's take a look at one more. This time it's a word problem, so let's go ahead and highlight things. It says a school requires 2 adults for every 16 students. So right there, that's a proportion. So we're going to write this. Whatever I read first, adults. And there were 2 adults, that's going to be my numerator, for every 16 students. And so let's keep that pattern in mind where adults is my numerator, students is my denominator. So there were 16 students. Then we go ahead and read the second sentence. It says, how many adults are needed to take 24 students? So the 24 needs to go even down here with the 16 with my denominator. It says, how many adults? Well, I have no idea how many adults, so I'm going to put my question mark there. So I'm trying to figure out how many adults go there. So once again, here I go. Now that I have the proportion set up, I'm going to multiply diagonally. So 2 times 24. And so if I need to pull that off to the side, 2 times 24. So 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 2 is 4. So I get 48. And I want to see if that equals, we'll change our color here, and I'm going to multiply diagonally here, 16. I want to see if it equals 16 times the question mark. And so once again, what I want to do is I want to get the question mark all by itself. So to do that, I need to do the opposite of multiplication, which is to divide the 16. So if I divide by the 16, it cancels, and the question mark comes down. So let's give ourselves some more space. So the question mark comes down, and I need to go ahead and divide 48 by the number here. Divide it by 16. So this is how I write that. 48 being divided by 16. So you want the bigger number inside the division symbol here. So now I just need to divide it. And the reason why I'm dividing it is because it's the opposite. It undoes the multiplication and gets me what the question mark's going to equal. And so here, to do this, how many times is 16 to divide into 48? So let's try a 3. 3 times 16 is 18. Carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 48. So it equals a 3. And once again, we can check our work by plugging in a 3. Let's rewrite the problem. 2 over 16. Does it equal, remember I'm going to plug in a 3 here for the question mark, 3 over 24. And so if I reduce both fractions, the first one here has to be reduced by a 2. So 2 divides into 2. Give myself some more space down here. 2 divides into 2 one time, and 2 divides into 16 8 times. And this fraction over here, 3 over 24, needs to be divided by 3. So when I reduce this fraction, 3 divides into 3 once, and 3 divides into 24 8 times. So the fractions do equal each other. But remember, we were looking for the missing symbol here, and the question was how many adults were needed to take 24 students? And so the answer is 3, and if I had to label this, 3 adults. And so those are a couple of different examples of solving proportions.